Hello, my name is Jimmy and this is the 2021 Mercedes AMG GLB 35. Being that this is the GLB, which means it's the second of the smallest SUVs that Mercedes makes, it's actually not that small and it's not really an SUV. First, let's talk about the size, because on some interior dimensions, it's actually a little bit bigger than the GLC. And well, while it does have that SUV type shape, because it is an AMG product, it's been lowered and it's more like, well, a very practical hatchback. Because as styling goes, I mean, yes, it does have like a miniature GLS type shape to it, but just because of its stance, it really reminds me of maybe just a fatter A-Class. Essentially, that's really what this is. But let's talk about the styling overall. The front end, I love the front end of this. You got the Panamericana front grille, lovely LED headlamps off to the side, and while we do get some fake grills on the bottom, it does have the AMG look, which I do prefer. Off to the side, we got these enormous 21-inch AMG wheels and of course the box-on-box shape. Definitely not a bad look, but the back, it's what I like the most out of this SUV. I love this rear end. You got a little lip spoiler on the top, beautiful LED tail lamps on the side here, and some kind of fake exhaust tips on the bottom. I mean, it's just a good shape overall. But the best thing about this shape is its practicality, because if we move over to the trunk, this tailgate hides 22 cubic feet back here. There's plenty of space. The floor itself, you can slide it underneath to have a little bit more extra volume. You can of course fold the seat backs down as well. They're 40-20-40 split, so you can still have 4 adults in here while carrying longer items. It's an amazingly practical family SUV, or hatchback, depending on who you're asking. The rear seats are actually quite accommodating. Well, no place for my phone, unfortunately, but there's plenty of headroom. I'm 5'11", as you can see. I still got a little bit more above me here, so even taller occupants wouldn't mind. You also get the stadium seating, which means the rear seats sit a little higher than the front, and I can put my foot right in front here, and there's plenty of knee room. It's actually really nice back here. There's just plenty of space, and these big windows, panoramic sunroof, lets in tons of light, which is also a plus. The only thing is, well, the seats, because of how they're kind of positioned, they're a little bit more flat, so maybe uncomfortable for some. But what you can do is you can slide them fore and aft, so if you need to, well, put a bigger item in the trunk or whatever, you can do that. Or you can move the seat forward to have your child seat a little bit closer to the front. If you're interested, I have a video linked up here on how the GLB fits car seats. I have a Collect Ling as well as a Collect Fünf, which is an infant seat as well as convertible, just to show you exactly, well, how this vehicle families. While the rear seats are absolutely fine for every day, the front seats is where you want to be. There's this bolstering on the side that really holds you into the seat itself. You have heated seats, but unfortunately ventilated seats is an option, which this vehicle doesn't have, and it's quite warm today. The steering wheel, that's actually quite nice as well. Alcantara on the side, leather on the top. Personally, while I love Alcantara steering wheel, I just don't think they're the best for daily use because they do gum up over time and they just get really nasty. So if you take care of it, it's gonna be fine. But yeah, not something I would choose as an option daily. Behind, I have a really nice instrument cluster, pretty standard across all Mercedes. Right now I have it in the Super Sport mode, which shows me everything I really need to see, and it's super customizable as with every Mercedes product. I also have a really good heads-up display, which also is just as customizable. And goes the same with the infotainment. The screens that's on here, it's just fantastic. The only thing is, there's just a lot of information. So if you are going to be utilizing the system, you may get a little distracted, which can be a problem, but there are multiple ways for you to interact with the screen itself. You got a little thumb pad here on the steering wheel. Of course, it is a full touchscreen, and you also get this trackpad down here. Personally, touchscreen is the best option, or you can say, hey Mercedes, which does work, but it's just not as good as Google Assistant or Siri, so it does take a little bit of time to just get used to the right commands. In terms of climate control, I love how Mercedes always have a dedicated row of climate control just below here. Just makes things nice and easy without diving into a menu. I mean, overall, the interior of the cabin is kind of what you expect a GLB to be. There are nicer materials on top, like this soft leather on here and soft leather down here, and get really nice aluminum bits and pieces. But when you move down a little lower, yeah, scratchy plastic there. I don't mind that as much because, you know, when you're getting in and out of the vehicle, you're gonna kick that panel, and I get it. But the one place I just don't like is this right here. This, well, it's actually kind of where my arm would sit, or elbow, I should say. And it's just a really, really hard plastic material. And because of that, well, my elbow rubs into it and it just gets uncomfortable. If you're a little taller, then it's not bad because you can use the actual armrest down here. But if you're shorter, yeah, not the best. But anyways, let's go for a drive because it's an AMG product. Let's stop sitting. Let's do it. As this is an AMG product, it does mean it has an AMG heart, or kinda. Unlike real AMGs where they actually have a heart that is hand built by one person, this one doesn't have a plaque. Thus, it's not built by some person. I'm sure it's built by like robots and stuff, but I mean, does it really matter? It's still a 35. And what that means is it's still a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder under that hood, 302 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 60 comes in about 5 seconds, which means if you throw into sport mode, you can put it into race start. And highway on-ramps just becomes a little bit more fun. And when you floor it, oh, there's quite a bit of noise that comes from that exhaust, and you get a lot of induction noise as well. So actually, I don't mind this at all. The GLB 35, well, it's technically not a real AMG because it doesn't have that plaque. But it doesn't really matter now, does it? With it just being so good on the road and just so responsive, who cares about that little plaque? It still drives so well in the corners. Well, the cornering grip is amazing. Yep, I'm in love. Okay, not that long ago, I was driving an A35 AMG, and I said in that video, don't buy this or the GLA 35 because, well, the A classes are kind of dying. And I mean that, yes, I get it, but there's something about this that makes it a little bit more fun. Yes, it's slower, but it's so much more practical. And as a family man myself now with a single child, I mean, just with the one, even with this, it's just so much more accommodating. There's so much room in here. I was able to put him into the car seat with absolutely zero problems. In the A-Class, he was tight. And in the A-Class, the hatch, I mean, it's big enough, but this is a vast difference. And that's one of the biggest things about it. So yeah, it may be a little slower, it may be a little bit heavier, but it doesn't take away from the presence that it is a true AMG or a fake AMG, depending on who you talk to. But I guess that's really it. Let me find a space here to pull over to give my final verdict. The GLB 35 AMG. So yeah, it's not a true AMG by definition, but I don't think that really matters. 302 horsepower in a vehicle like this is plenty, it really is. It's a whole lot of fun and, well, I definitely enjoy myself in it. There's plenty of space. But the main question is it worth it over the GLB 250? And is it worth it over the regular A-Class? Well, let's talk about the GLB first. The GLB 250 is almost $14,000 less. While yes, it has less power at 221 versus 302 and less torque, 258 versus 295, does it really matter for those who are looking for a family SUV? Probably not. I actually really love the GLB 250. I think it was a really good vehicle as is. I mean, sure, it's a little slower, but a 7-second 0 to 60 isn't that much slower. It's enough. As for the A35 hatch that we get here in Canada, that's about $50,000, which means it's about $7,500 less than this. So for $7,500 you get this much more space, I think it's a good step up. But I gotta be honest, it's not for everyone. If you have a family, this definitely makes a lot more sense than the A-Class just because of pure practicality and size. My wife, she actually loves the look of this over the standard A-Class. I'm the opposite. I like the look of the A-Class versus this, but I mean, no matter which one you choose, you still get a really, really good vehicle overall. This, as tested, is nowhere near close to that base price because this one's 72,000 Canadian dollars, and you still can add options on top. You can add it all the way to 78,000, which puts you in the realm of the GLC 43. But yeah, that's just another step. And if you go to the GLC 43 and you start to add options, well, you can play with the configure yourself on Mercedes website. It adds on, it really does. But I mean, overall, I think I love this little hatchback SUV, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to classify it as. I think it's a really good car overall. It has the perfect balance of everything a family needs because of the overall size, but still delivering a whole ton of performance. And, if you want to jiggle your kids to sleep, you can press a button on the center here to stiffen up the suspension and they'll be off to sleep in no time. In any case, thank you so much for watching this video. Like the video if you do, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.